imagine never having television, not looking at that screen, and now that huge screen? Well, just think about that. Way back when, how would you know the news? Well, you might read a newspaper, you might listen to the radio, but it would be hard to see historic events unless they happened when you lived. But if someone traveled around the world and photographed those events and then put them in books and magazines so that you could see them, that's what I did. I traveled across the United States and around the world photographing those historic events before television. I'm Margaret Bourke White. I'm a photojournalist. Now, I was born in New York in 1904. When I was little, sometimes I pretended to take photos with an imaginary camera, an empty box. Then when I was 8, my father took me to a factory to see machine parts being made. So exciting, I wished I had a real camera so that I could take pictures and then show them to my friends. Well, you might think I studied photography when I went to college, but I didn't. I went to 5 different colleges. And I changed my major many times. So I studied engineering, biology, and herpetology, study of snakes and reptiles, before deciding on photography. And then my mother surprised me with a camera. Well, I had great fun learning to use it. When I went off to college and needed money for tuition, I took pictures of the campus and sold the pictures. When I graduated, I knew photography was my career. The world was full of discoveries waiting to be made as a photojournalist. I wanted to do that. I could share the things I learned and things I saw. Now, one of my first projects was photographing men working in a steel mill. Nobody had done that. Inside the dark steel mill, hot flames issued from a furnace. Where the metal was melted, I crawled out onto high support beams. The heat burned my face, but I didn't care. It was worth it. Those pictures started my career. I was hired to be a photographer by Fortune magazine. My first assignment took me to a meat packing place in Chicago. I photographed the work from start to finish. I made photo history with those pictures because I didn't use words to tell the story. My photos told the story. It was the first ever photo essay. In 1934, I traveled across farmland states, turned into waste because of lack of rain. It was so dry, people wore masks to keep out the dust. I photographed scorched earth, dead animals, empty houses, from the open cockpit of a 2-seater airplane. My photos made people see how others were suffering. Another project took me to the southern United States. Many people there had no jobs and were extremely poor. In one town, I photographed little twin girls who had to go to school on alternate days because they only had one pair of shoes and one coat to share between them. My pictures were in a book called You Have Seen Their Faces. When people read the book and saw photographs, they asked the government to help these poor people. In 1936, I started working for a new magazine called Life. The editor sent me to Montana to photograph this huge dam being built. My photograph of the Fort Peck Dam was on the very first cover of Life. And my photo essay about the people building that dam was the lead story. When World War II broke out in Europe, Life sent me there as a war correspondent. I was the first woman to photograph combat. I slept on the ground. I crawled through the woods with the soldiers. I scooped up water in my helmet. I dodged enemy fire by jumping into holes. I was in danger, but while I was taking pictures, I was blind to everything around me, even danger. I was the first woman to go on a bombing mission. Our plane was hit, but I got my pictures, and we landed safely. Soon after that, Life talked about those pictures, and their headline was, Life's Bourke White Goes Bombing. After the war, I photographed the Nazi death camps. My pictures of Holocaust survivors showed the world what horrible things had happened. My mother always told me to open all the doors. And for 25 years, I did just that. I got the stories no one else got, and I got